Here's an example of some self-directed study that I made while working at Epic, and this was made entirely with PowerPoint. So it was available on the network drive, and anyone could open it and go through the material on their own. So I used lots of animations and actions to create buttons. And I restricted the navigation so that the mouse wouldn't work, so they would have to use the buttons so they couldn't skip ahead. You'll see I created a lot of custom graphics, and the animations helped to slowly introduce the information so that they weren't overwhelmed by a lot of text on the screen at once. And as much as possible, I try to reduce the amount of text that's shown and use graphical representations instead. Of course, because this was a self-study course, and there was no audio associated, there's a lot more text than I would have for a stand-up presentation. And these buttons work so that you could push them in any order for the animations to appear. Makes it a little more interactive. Then click the next button to continue. And I included lots of links out to additional resources down here at the bottom of the page. We gave them a heads up about what was included in the exam so they could study the different sections and know what to expect. You may notice that I use lorem ipsum for all of the text. I just wanted to redact it so there would be no issues with presenting that information. Here again, I use buttons to add a little more interactivity. So you click to see what happens at each level. And then, again, click to see what happens. And I added review slides throughout the course. So if you wanted to jump back to a specific topic, you could do that easily from here, based on everything that's been covered. And I'm going to introduce a set of scenarios. So the first step was to just introduce them to how the scenario was laid out, what the different images meant. And then I added optional breakout pages, so they didn't have to go and look at this page, but if they did, it would take them to it, and this slide was actually at the very end of the presentation, and then they could jump straight back to where they were before they continue on. So in these scenarios, we're presenting kind of complex information about how the servers communicate with each other, how we share information between servers. So they would actually send the messages between the servers by clicking the button, and they could see how that spreads through the network. And up here at the top, you'll see the scenario key button, and this takes them, to review if they don't remember the key, and they can jump back to where they were. We'll keep going. We have a few different scenarios. So again, we can see the change in the messaging. And this time they're starting from a different part of the network and see how that affects the messaging. And then we can ask questions to see if they've actually learned anything from the situation. And we give them feedback right here on the page as to whether they're right or wrong. You can answer as many times as you want in any order so they can get to the right answer. Then again, lots of pictures so you can get an idea of the style I like to use. adding interactivity to present the information. So this is a really, low budget way to do e-learning. You don't need any specialized software. You can just use PowerPoint and some basic graphic design tools. I like to add little wiggle animations to make the page more interesting. Again, slowly presenting the information. So that's the course, and I also wanted to give you a quick view of this handout I created. Again, I made this handout entirely in PowerPoint. It works great for, a poor man's layout tool. You don't need InDesign or Illustrator to do some basic print layout. You can easily do that in PowerPoint. And then just save it as a PDF and can distribute it that way or print it for your students, however you want to do it. So there are a couple e-learning tricks that I used, and hopefully give you a good idea of my style and my capabilities.